starting to develop Friday night services on special occasions, as the rabbi had tried to make a Ruach Shabbat on Fridays. We also had a wonderful Purim Seudah. The rabbi was involved in an art program that he was funded by the Jewish Federation. And our Eruv was moving very quickly with support from an Eruv grant that we received from the Bader Philanthropies. We had just begun to discuss how we were going to repair the porch, and all of this has been thrown into a bit of inaction due to COVID-19. I think post-COVID-19, the major effort of the leadership has been to connect and engage all members of the congregation. And we've done that in a number of ways. I think the rabbi has developed dynamic, interactive programming. And for those of you who are on the pre-Shavuot program, in which we had a Zoom reading of the Megillah, was very special. The rabbi is also doing an extensive work in phone calls, emails, and Facebook posts to keep people engaged. And we are having a weekly message from me, which is based on life in the city, so to speak. I try to make this informative and not political. There have been some very nice things. I speak weekly with the rabbi to make sure that we're on the same page, which we generally are, and speak with other members of the executive committee, in addition to the executive committee meeting every 6 weeks. And I will send out a schedule now that we have a new executive committee and a new board. I think that we have focused on, now importantly, the next stage of reopening. I think for those of you who've read the morning paper, the Milwaukee, the mayor of Milwaukee has announced the stage 3 reopening of post-COVID events. This is despite the fact that we have not yet gotten control of COVID-19 in Milwaukee and continue to have 300 to 500 new cases per day. I think that in that context, we have focused on the next stage of our reopening, that is the shul, minyanim, and joining together in person. The rabbi and I have discussed this very significantly over the past couple of weeks, and I think that we are in total accord with the guidelines that have been developed by the Orthodox Union and the Rabbinical Council of America, the RCA, and I've shared those with you in my weekly message a couple of times, but will just state that there are no Orthodox shuls which are opening right now under those guidelines. And it is important that we meet safely, given the age of our congregation and the age of members, as was previously noted, in our attempt to decrease the average age of our board by about 10 or 15 years. So that pretty much summarizes where we're going. I think there's some new data on the Eruv, which I will share with the rabbi, but I will share with all of you, and that is that we've received the final piece of approvals that are necessary to have Rabbi Shotkin drive out from New York, the New York area, to actually build the Eruv, which should take 2 weeks, we're planning. And this is very exciting, and we're just waiting for the contact with Rabbi Shotkin to be completed, and that new era of the East Side Eruv to develop and begin. So in closing, I want to thank all of you for your support. I think it's been a very difficult time for everyone. And I wish you all my very best in terms of good health, staying safe, and we will be very responsive to any of your interests regarding our reopening plans as they develop. So thank you, Rabbi. I'll turn it back to you for your comments.
Ellis, thank you so much. I really appreciate those words, and I'm excited about what we have done and what, God willing, we will continue to do and do in the future. I also want to emphasize that one of the first things I ever learned about being a good leader of a shul for a rabbi is to have a really good relationship with your president. And our shul is really lucky, both in the previous president when I worked with Jay and now with Ellis, is we're really on the same page. And that says something a lot about our community, and I think it'll be good for us going forward. I both enjoy my conversations with Ellis, and we agree on really everything. And if there's anything we disagree on, it's something where it's not a black and white issue, and we have meaningful conversations about it. So this shul, from the top down, we have Osei Shalom. We have a lot of peace and agreement. One of the most important things about the annual meeting has always been both celebrating our community and also bringing out a guest speaker. So we're not flying anyone in from Israel, but I was able to find a guest speaker. And before I share that with you, I just want to let you know who he is. His name is Rabbi Yosef Kanevsky. He sent us a recording. You'll see that in just a moment. But for those who don't know who he is the rabbi of one of the biggest modern Orthodox shuls in America. It's actually in Los Angeles. My sister's a member there. They're incredibly active. And he is without a doubt one of the leading lights in what modern Orthodoxy can and should be. And when you hear him speak, I think you'll see why. But as I also said, we're celebrating our congregation. So the video I'm going to share with all of you is put together with our guest speaker, but people from our congregation sharing what is amazing about us. And with all of the challenges and those who say, not those who say it's true, Zoom's not the same as hanging out together in shul. But through all of this, I have seen how deeply connected and committed we all are to our shul and its vision. And I think that will come out in this video. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and then share the video with everyone. Please enjoy.
Yes, now it's okay.
Time I walked into the shul, somehow I knew right away that that would be my shul. I didn't have a specific reason why. I just felt comfortable immediately. I love the neighborhood where the shul is, and it's about 1.5 miles from where I live. Can't beat the tree-lined streets. It's not far from the lake, and the old house is gorgeous. It's got great bones. And within a short amount of time, I was invited to assist and participate in all sorts of events that the shul has planned and to continue that participation. Unbeknownst to me, when I joined the shul, I joined shortly after the Dinnan family came to our shul, and it felt like they had been there for years. And they certainly make the shul what it is, a warm, welcoming, relaxed place. And I think their participation in the shul has contributed to our growth 20% in the short time that they have been with us, which I think is pretty impressive. And hopefully that growth will continue.
Rabbi Joel Dinnan is a great leader and teacher. His understanding of Torah and his sermons are clear and outstanding. Furthermore, his singing is inspiring. He takes a deep interest in each person and family in the congregation. One could not ask for a better or more caring rabbi.
Access and kindness. What do I mean? Those who may not have felt able to participate in Orthodox congregations elsewhere can play a part here. Women and new learners, men and women. In our shul, women can serve as board members, executive committee officers, and even presidents. In halachically approved areas, women can participate in our services. We read from the Megillot at Sukkot, Pesach, and Shavuot. New learners, whether they are men or women, are encouraged to join in our services. I can speak from experience and say that the first time you do this, you wish you hadn't made those mistakes. But the kindness of our congregation now plays its part. You are praised for trying. You are encouraged to do it again and again and to become part of the regular rotation. This is what I mean by access and kindness.
אוהבים את ישראל, וביום העצמאות אנחנו אומרים הלל עם ברכה. מנגינות משירים בישראל, מלוות תפילות אצלנו. Okay, in our synagogue at Lake Park, we love Israel. And on Yom HaAtzmaut, Hallel is said with a blessing. And melodies from songs from Israel accompany many of the tefillot in our synagogue.
Rabbi Dinan gives classes that are very interesting. They range from practical topics to historical subjects, such as discussions of intellectual or physical disabilities, Torah and the age of the universe, Israel during the time of the prophets, and those are just a few for an example. The classes are well organized and they come to a conclusion based on biblical sources, the Talmud, the Mishnah, and rabbinic opinions from ancient to modern times. During the recent COVID-19 pandemic, the classes have continued on Zoom. Recently, another class has been added with a discussion of the weekly Parsha. During this stay-at-home period of COVID-19, these classes on Zoom have been the highlights of our week.
Thank you to Rabbi Dinan for giving me the opportunity to share a few thoughts with you on the topic of what modern Orthodoxy is and why it's important. I'd begin by saying that modern Orthodoxy is fundamentally orthodoxy. It is about a passionate, steadfast, determined commitment, individually and communally, to live according to the halakha. It's about commitments to things like tefillah b'tzibur, public prayer, to the study of Torah, to gimilut chasadim, the performance of acts of kindness, and to Shabbat, to Chagim, to Kashrut. It's about all of those things. Modern Orthodoxy is also about a couple of other things. It is about a commitment to the idea that it is not possible to live the halakha properly without seeing the world in which the halakha was designed to be lived, the world which the halakha was designed to impact. Modern Orthodoxy challenges us to pick up our heads and to take a panoramic look around and to see the flaws in our society and in our systems, to see the people who are on the outside looking in, due either to poverty or to the way they self-identify, or to disability, or to the color of their skin. To look around and to see the groundless tension that exists among groups of people, tensions that are fed by ignorance of one another and the absence of sincere human relationships. Modern Orthodoxy requires us to pick up our heads to see these things, and in the best way we know how, to respond. Modern Orthodoxy also challenges us to embrace moral claims, whether those moral claims find their roots within or without our texts and our traditions. Today, that means moral claims such as universal human dignity, such as tolerance for difference, such as gender equality, which is a particularly challenging issue for the Orthodox tradition, one which we need to approach with nuance and with balance. To be honest, I'm never really sure that modern is the most descriptive adjective for what it is that we live and what it is that our commitments are. But one way or another, it's the term that we use, and we know what we mean when we use it. We mean an orthodoxy that understands that it finds its realization not only by looking inward, but also and necessarily by looking outward. Thank you, Rabbi Dinan, for this opportunity.
כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום, כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם.
הבנתי איך ומדוע, איך כל יום מתארך לשבוע, לא ידעתי איפה ואיך, הייתי לבד.
So I hope everyone enjoyed that, and I want to, I saw some people already getting their l'chaims ready. So I'll share a few brief words before we join together in a l'chaim. So the first thing that I want to say is word of gratitude. And I'll start by thanking my wife, Sarah, and my kids who have been so supportive, not only in everything going on with the quarantine, but also in allowing me to be able to have the time to reach out to the community. Many times my daughter Mia has been sitting playing with her Barbies while I've spent almost an hour and a half calling different congregants, and she always stops once in a while and says, "How many more calls, Daddy? Do I get a treat afterwards?" And for my wife, who has her own full-time job, to watch the kids while I do this, and also for all the sessions she led of LPS Connections. Now, thank God, her business is picking up, so I can be supportive of her. I want to thank Lynn Stram and Samar Lohenberg for helping put this all together, for conceiving of the video and being the committee for this event. They didn't have to set up chairs or anything or pick out any floral arrangement, so it was a lot easier. I want to thank Rabbi Kanevsky, even though he's not here now. I'll let him know how grateful we are for being our guest speaker. Thank you, of course, to Ellis and the whole executive committee for being so supportive, and of course to all of you, and to Neil for running the elections today. And to everyone here who's been so flexible, understanding, supportive, not just of me and helping me be a leader of this community, but also to each other. I know a lot of you are reaching out to each other, and that's not only how we get through this, but how we come out stronger at the other end and more committed. But the final thank you is one that I've said before, but I'm bringing up again for a specific purpose, which is the home that we have. And again, thanking the whole community, those who helped build the home, purchase the home, etc. And the reason I'm bringing that up is to share a mashal, a story. Is in the past week, there were two projects in my house that I had no idea how to deal with. Both of them, just completely stumped me. And then I was sitting around thinking about things I'd done back in Baltimore, actually, in my home, and I realized, oh, I could actually adapt those things I learned there to apply to my new problems here. So my experience of having lived in a home before helped me fix these two things. And today I'm going to get out my drill and fix these two problems. But that idea of new challenges coming before us and then realizing, oh, I have experience. I've been through something like this before, and now I'm prepared, is a very important component, a tool in our tool belt of life. And in fact, a few years ago, I was in yeshiva, and I was learning a book, not because I had to, not for an assignment. I just wanted to learn a book of Torah. And I discovered in it a paragraph that I had just learned the day before in a formal class with one of my rabbis. And I went to tell him, and he got so excited, and he had a big smile on his face. And he said to me, and I'll explain what this means. He said, Joel, that's how you know you're learning lishma. Lishma in Hebrew literally means just for the sake of it. In other words, I wasn't learning because I had to prepare for an assignment or some other obligation. I was learning just because I loved it. And what he said is, when you start doing that, you just start learning just for the sake of learning, just to gain knowledge. You'll start finding all of these connections in your life. You'll start finding that the wisdom that you gain in one book can apply somewhere else in something that you are learning. And one of the most powerful ways that that came up in my life was in my yeshiva. Every year they had a medical ethics week. That's where I learned about intellectual disabilities, physical disabilities, and also we had a week on end of life issues that come up. And these issues often tear families apart when a loved one is nearing the end of their life. Well, I had completed that week, and it wasn't long after that my father, Alav Shalom, was nearing the end of his life. And my sister called me with great trepidation. She was really scared and said, we have to talk about Dad and what's going to happen. And I said, don't worry about it. I've already spent a whole week learning about this, and I know all the possibilities, and I'm not afraid of anything. And it turned out my sister and my mom, we were all on the exact same page. But even if we didn't agree, just the fact that I had been learning it, lishma, just learning for learning's sake, it prepared me for one of the greatest challenges that I would ever face in my life. And that is what I want Lake Park, of all the beautiful things we're doing, growing our community, being there for each other through challenges, inviting young families. My biggest spiritual goal for our community is for me to impart the spiritual tools so that people can face all the challenges that come up in life. Imagine if right now, as we're talking with and being challenged by the protests and civil disobedience, what if we had had a class on that a year ago? What if people knew the books of the prophets backwards and forwards? So they knew, oh, this is what our tradition has to say about civil disobedience, about how to speak to and speak about powers and their responsibilities. The more that we learn, the more we are prepared to face life. And that speaks from some of the most common things that we go through, end of life, and all the rabbinic teachings about dealing with mourning, to also how we deal with joy. But my goal through all of this and for the future is to continue to create a learning community so that for everyone here, regardless of where we are in terms of our observance, regardless of where we are on our journey, things are going to come up in our life, and we are going to be prepared for it because we'll think, oh, I learned about that. I have another tool in my tool belt, and I'm ready to respond to what the world is going to throw at me. And that is the beauty of the Torah. There are 70 faces of the Torah because there are an infinite number of challenges that face us, and the Torah can respond to all of them if we only look inside of it. And the final thing I'll say is one of the greatest things that we hopefully will come up very often in our life are joy. And one of the ways that we often respond to joy in our community is to have a l'chaim. So I'm grabbing my cup here. I grabbed a very nice glass. I like to say this is vodka. I would be lying. It's water. But what I will do is I'll say a blessing. Anyone who has wine, you can say a Brei Pri Agafen, but I'll say a She'akol Niyeh Bidvaro over this. And we'll have a l'chaim, and then I'll let Alice close us out for this annual event for the year. So, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam She'akol Niyeh Bidvaro.
חבר קוזקים פוסע בשלגים הרחק הרחק שוטף לו למרחקים שוטף